Welcome to American Players Theater Talkbacks to Go. I'm Buzz Kemper, and I invite you to take a walk up the hill with Orange Schroeder and me as Orange chats with actors Abbey Siegworth and Brian Mani about APT's production of The Doctor's Dilemma by George Bernard Shaw.
We are talking about The Doctor's Dilemma by George Bernard Shaw. Director Aaron Posner is not able to be with us here today, but we are very fortunate to have Brian Mani, who is playing Sir Colenso Ridgeon, and Abbey Siegworth, who is playing Jennifer Dubedat. The Doctor's Dilemma is a play that George Bernard Shaw wrote in 1906 on a dare. He had been challenged by his friend, theater critic William Archer, to write a play about the King of Terrors, which is death. But of course, it also talks about the whole medical field and has a lot to say about that, as George Bernard Shaw always does. So, Brian, let's start out asking you a little bit about the main themes of the play and how George Bernard Shaw handles those.
Well, Shaw is never shy about putting his theology out into his plays. In Widowers' Houses a few years ago, he made some very strong statements about housing and landlords and the privileged and the underprivileged. And he speaks about that all the time. In this play, he speaks about healthcare. And I believe, at least in the research that I've read, he speaks strongly to the idea or the concept that there should be a national healthcare. And so what he does in this play is he illustrates what some of the dangers might be with private doctors who are seeking their own personal gain, and Hippocratic oath or not, they may find ways to make money through their profession which may not actually be useful or needed. Surgeries or treatments or medicines. And so I think he was pretty bold in doing this. And I was not aware of that dare, but he was always daring.
And how about your character? You play the doctor of the dilemma.
I am the doctor with the dilemma. He is a man who has just been honored, and he is, oddly enough, he's pretty comfortable with the idea of who he is and how he runs his profession. He, very early on, presents the analogy of, 10 people on a raft? Who, and he as a doctor has to take a lifeboat, that he has to take care of these 10 people. And these are the only people he can help on this boat. And then someone drowning comes up to the edge of the boat and is saying, help me, help me. And they know that if they add that one person, someone else has to leave, otherwise they will sink. And so he sees this dilemma in this way. And so it makes him very possessive of the 10 patients that he is in charge of. And so he is not looking forward to taking on others, which, again, I think sort of presents the idea of a person in private practice being limited to the resources in which they have. And I think Shaw would make the argument, were it a national program, there would not be what could be perceived as favoritism that's going on. So my character seems very comfortable with the fact that he is going to put his blinders on and he's going to look at these people that he has in front of him, that he is committed to helping. But then an 11th patient comes in to be a possibility, and that's sort of where the play begins.
And Abby, is that your character?
Yes. Jennifer is not sick herself, but her husband is, who is a young, vibrant, genius artist. Someone who you could say contributes to the betterment of society and the world in a way that is that is not matched by a lot of other people. Therefore, valuing his life over others, perhaps. And so another part of this doctor's dilemma becomes, okay, well, if I can save her husband, if I deem him worthy, agree with how she's selling him as this amazing man. Am I saving him if I save him, they will be married and she will go on and have a wonderful life with him. But I think that there's a possibility in a lot of Shavian women who are smart enough to know all that they have to work. I guess what I mean is she's aware she's beautiful. She's aware that other men think she's beautiful. And she's not shying away of using tactics that may encourage others to think that she thinks that they're interesting in order to save her husband's life.
And Dr. Ridgeon also notices that she is very beautiful. And that adds to his dilemma also. He sees a man who, even with the best treatment, may not live, and his interest is piqued in her. And it's not what ends up happening, but he passes the care on for the artist, for Lewis, and he passes it on to a colleague, and it doesn't work out well.
Almost knowingly.
Knowingly.
That may be decided later. But
yeah. But Dr. Ridgeon almost sees an opportunity in the failure of the treatment of him, of the artist. And so
if you can extrapolate personally from there.
It's a real dilemma. His personal interests seem to, again, we have to delve into this in rehearsals and find out exactly where the crux of that lies, but he seems willing to let a life be in limbo for the possibility of a life with her.
And would you say that the choice of who receives medical care is one that will resonate with audiences today?
Well, I would hope so. I would think so. Not to go deeply into the Affordable Health Care Act, there is so much debate over it and so many different opinions of it. And yet, the one thing I know is that I work with a lot of artists, and I know a lot of artists, and a lot of them who are not a part of the Actors' Equity Union have lived for a long time without health care, and they are now able to have health care, and they are grateful for it. I would think that there are going to be people that come to see the show who have strong opinions both ways. And I would love it if they were talking about it on the way down the hill or in their car.
As would Shaw.
As would Shaw.
Yeah, it definitely incites a conversation. The play doesn't end in a neat bow. I think there's still a couple large questions looming. And definitely something that will... that still leaves me kind of feeling off balance about it. It's kind of amazing to me how it's over 100 years later and we're still very much in a similar debate.
And the play is set in 1903. Is the stage set going to be true to that period?
Interesting with the stage setting, and actually... This, I think, will be the first time we've presented a Shaw that has been adapted, at least to my knowledge. Aaron Posner is not only the director, but the adapter of this play. So when you mentioned the set is going to be very minimalist. Usually when we have Shaw, we have a bunch of tables and books and papers and desks and chairs and obstacles. In fact, Shaw usually creates a problem for us on where to put the furniture and where to put the actors, because sometimes there are many interior scenes that just you have to represent them. And this summer in this production, we are going to do it with very few pieces of furniture, and Aaron has adapted the script so that even some things that are stage directions will be read. Do you want to?
Yeah, there was something that Aaron wrote in our, we have a director's chat at the beginning of every season, and he wrote a little essay to be read. And one thing that he mentioned in there that I thought was probably true and very funny was that he can't imagine that Shaw would mind more of his writing spoken on the stage.
He's verbose.
Yeah, and it's so descriptive and so much fun to get those character descriptions spoken and to hear them spoken by other characters in the play is kind of an interesting theatrical device.
Yeah. So in essence, Shaw is always exceedingly specific about what he sees his characters as. So when a character enters, there is anywhere from 5 to 15 lines about who that character is, what he looks like, what his traits are, how he may wear his clothes.
The state that they're in.
The posture they take. All of this is given you. And in this production, I think virtually every character that enters, there will be spoken some of that description of who they are by either the character themselves or other characters that are in the play.
That certainly makes it less of a fourth wall. I mean, it makes us realize that we were watching a play. Does that detract from it, do you think?
We've yet to really know, but I don't.
Well, I don't. In the movie, in my mind about how this will go, it actually, I think, invites the audience in, hopefully, because the real center of the piece is not to be smarter or to dictate ideas at an audience, but rather to engage people in thinking along with these characters while they're grappling with some real struggles. And one of the best ways into looking at our humanity, I think, and so did Shaw, is to laugh at it. So hopefully this will just knock down a little artifice or add a little artifice, but in a way to engage, not to alienate.
I've also heard that Shaw has more thoughts per minute than any other playwright. Is that a challenge for you as actors?
Shaw always keeps you on your toes, and I find Shaw among the most challenging of playwrights and the most rewarding. I love doing Shaw. I'm hungry to do Shaw, and I can't wait to get started on this. If we have a moment, my wife and I took last summer off, and my wife and I had the chance to go to London. And north of London, we got to visit where George Bernard Shaw lived virtually the second half of his life. Of course, he ventured into London for openings and writing reviews in his life, but he lived and wrote so much of his life, the second half of his life, in this house and this wonderfully landscaped property. And he had all the modern gadgets in the house, buzzes and bells and whistles and servants' bells and codes for what they wanted. And so it was a wonderful place to visit, and I can't help but think he would love to see a new take on his play also, on any of his plays. So I don't think we're doing anything sacrilegious here. I think we're doing something quite wonderful. He
was one at his time to challenge the status quo, and I think that he would applaud an effort to do so as long as it was done tastefully.
and I'm sure it will be done excellently here at APT. Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Talkbacks to Go is a production of Orange Tree Imports, Pro Video and Film, and Audio for the Arts. Your host is Oren Schroeder. I'm Buzz Kemper. Our music is by Steve Tibbetts and is used by permission of the artist. Please find us on iTunes and YouTube under APT Talkbacks to Go. Thank you for listening.